All right, my name is Samuel George, and this is part 3 of Assignment 5 for Comp533. In this part, we're going to switch between custom serializers, my personal string buffer and byte buffer, as well as the default Java one. To do this, I've set up my serializer factory. We'll test binary first for consistency. So I've set up client 1 is just using the standard. As you see, we don't make a call, and the client 1 custom has a call to use my own custom serializer here. And we're going to see a difference in the outputs here as well. So just to get a base, we're going to start the server. I've also turned on tracing for all 3 of these. Okay. We're going to spread these out just so we can see. And we see in client 1, for example, if we type in command and we say we want to move 100, 100, we see both have moved down there together, as well as the one underneath as well. And then looking at client 1, you can see we serialized the object, and this was the call that we serialized. And our total serialized bytes was 1171. Okay. So over here I have put how many bytes we actually serialized, and it's 1171. Okay. Alright, so we're going to terminate all, and this time we're going to use our own setter and use my factory, as well as tracing on. Again, this is the binary first. And we can see this printing here. This is the longer. There's a join that each one of these calls makes to the server, and that is to be serialized as well. 2 and 3. Okay, so in client 1, we're going to do the same thing we did before and enter command and say we want to move 100, 100. Again, we can see this one moved, and this one moved, so they are all together. And if we look at our list of calls here for in client 1, we can see we serialized. We said send 100, 100. Since it's an echo server and it doesn't have since the send to the server is not synchronous or not blocking, we'll actually finish and be ready to take other commands before we actually have deserialized previous commands. But that's fine, that's what we expect. And if we look at the final object serialization finished, it tells us how many bytes we've actually serialized, 632, and when we go to deserialize, the good news is we have the exact same object going in as we have going out. So this is good. And our total byte size was 632. Okay. And now we're going to do the same thing using our textual serializer. We're going to save that. Okay. So looking at client 1, again, we did our whole join, and we are ready to move. So we'll show these two, and we will say command, and we'll say we want to send move 100, 100. We see they both moved, so the call was made properly. And looking back at our client 1's output here, again, we were ready to take another command as we serialized and sent and did not block. So we did our move. You see all of my string buffer tracking strings showing the serialization process for the bean. As you can see, we ultimately ended up finishing the serialization of a bean, which is what we were sending. And then if we look at the bytes sent, total bytes is 526. Okay, just as I saw before. What's interesting about this is that the serializable call I expected to have much larger, particularly for textual, than for binary or for byte size. My only guess is I'm not sure why the Java serialization one is more. My guess is since my serialization scheme only has to handle a small subset of all the classes in Java, that there's probably an enormous amount of extra information that has to be serialized. where it can't just assume there's going to be 7 or something different types, so perhaps that's why this byte buffer is much larger. What was really unexpected is that the textual one was much smaller than the byte buffer one, or at least a little bit smaller than the byte buffer one for the same command. My only thought on that was that perhaps what I've done is I created the textual and then said string buffer.get bytes, and my only thought is perhaps those bytes can be condensed and compacted in a way to where it takes up less actual byte space. And we'll see in the performance experiments whether that condensing and whether our textual or binary is faster in terms of time. But again, these are the sizes. And this covers part 3, which is trace showing the 3 serializers working correctly, which we did, as well as the size of the byte buffers that created the 3 schemes.